All right, thank you. The next item will be provided by school leadership, and that is an update on an Achievable Dreams Certified Academy at Highland Springs Elementary. The school board has received an overview each year for an Achievable Dreams Certified Academy at Highland Springs, beginning with that first report to the board on May 24, 2018 at a monthly meeting, and an update is provided to the board each subsequent year. And so I'd like to introduce our guests who are here to present this evening. I also know we have some other guests related to this presentation, but Principal Tolliver and Mr. Thorpe are here to provide the presentation. Welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Cashwell, good afternoon. We are here today to present to you an update on an Achievable Dreams Certified Academy at Highland Springs Elementary. Henrico County Public Schools and Achievable Dream Incorporated entered into a partnership in January of 2017. In July of 2017, an Achievable Dream Certified Academy at Highland Springs Elementary School opened its doors and welcomed its first group of dreamers, beginning with the K through second grade students. Grade 3 was added July 2018, followed by grade 4, July 2019, and then full implementation with 5th grade in 2020. I'll now turn it over to Mr. Thorpe.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Dr. Tolliver. And I'm going to continue the update with an update on enrollment and attendance at the Achievable Dream Academy at Highland Springs Elementary School. As you can see, we have a current enrollment of 522 students with a capacity of 570 students at Highland Springs Elementary School. And this past school year, 2019-2020, we had an attrition rate of 1%, which is similar to attrition rates in previous school years. And then from there, I'm going to move to one of our standards of accreditation, which is chronic absenteeism rate. And as we can see from a trend from 2017-2018, we had a drop in chronic absenteeism rate from that school year to 2018-2019. And then just released information for last school year, we had a chronic absenteeism rate of 17.31%. And again, chronic absenteeism is defined as the number of students who have missed at least 10% or more of the school days in the school year. I'm going to continue with attendance. And we are thrilled to see that our virtual summer intersession attendance, daily average attendance, was 80% after the unexpected spring closure of 2020, where our daily average attendance dropped to approximately 25% during that virtual period. The attendance for our first 3 Saturday sessions this year has been 50%, where approximately 20 students per grade level have been invited to Saturday school when in person, and the daily average attendance rate is based on the total number of invited students on the roster and not total enrollment. And additionally, right now, our average daily attendance for the beginning, or for this part of the school year so far this year, is approximately 95% average daily attendance. Dr. Tolliver is going to give us an update on school culture at Highland Springs Elementary School.
Our dreamers continue to benefit from our morning meeting, social rotations, and overall integration of the ADA social, academic, moral education framework throughout their day. This focus on social and emotional well-being, by being reminded daily of how important they are and how they have the power to be the best they can be, is paying off. Last year, we shared with you all that we had a 25% decrease from the 2017-2018 school year with suspensions. For this year, we looked at a comparative time frame. Looking from September through February, we saw a 35% decrease in suspensions from the 2018 to 2019 school year to the 2019-2020 school year with suspensions. This significant decrease in behavior benefits the readiness and accessibility to learning moving forward. We continue to provide our students with social rotations that teach them problem solving, etiquette, and social skills. They learn to speak green, practice mindfulness, and participate in other experiences to build their life skill competencies that will support their success not only in school, but in the community, both now and after graduation. Mr. Thorpe?
Thank you, Dr. Tolliver. In the next couple of slides, I'm going to provide you with an update on academic progress at the Achievable Dream Academy in Highland Springs Elementary School. Students are always at the center of our actions, and student achievement and growth is at the core of our work. Our first group of Dreamers participated in the reading SOLs during the 2018-2019 school year. Their performance was higher than the previous group of third graders. They were the only group that showed an increase when compared to the previous year's group. Moving now to math. Again, our group of students who are coming in as third graders in 2018-2019, their performance was higher than the previous group of third graders by 20 percentage points. In this slide, we are looking at reviewing student performance data from previous years, and this is trend data of students reading on or above grade level. This table outlines trends with the percentage of students by grade level who were measured reading on or above grade level at Highland Springs Elementary School. And so we have done some highlighting here to show cohorts of students over a period of years. And as you can see, for instance, in grade 1 in 2017-2018, 39% of those first graders were reading on or above grade level. That same group of students as second graders, 32% of those students were reading on or above grade level. And again, that next year as third graders, 19% of those students were reading on or above grade level. These trends are gravely concerning to us, and they serve as a call to action, continued action, and more aggressive action. Our students take assessments that are designed to inform future learning and instruction, and also provide a snapshot of how well they've learned skills that have been explicitly taught and learned. One of these assessments is our semester benchmark in mathematics, and this table shows the percentage of students who scored at or above the proficiency cut score on the assessment. Last year's third graders had a higher percentage of students who scored at or above this proficiency level than the previous year's third graders. And as you can see with the fourth graders who last year were under the umbrella of the Achievable Dream, they outscored the previous year's cohort with the number or percentage of students scoring at or above proficiency. Continuing with academic progress, we are looking at student growth with reading in the primary grades. This table shows the percentage of students who demonstrated growth in reading of at least one level as measured by PALS, the Phonological Awareness Literacy Screening, from fall to spring in 2017-2018 and 2018-2019, and then fall 2019 to winter of 2020. And so in measuring first graders, 78% of our first graders in 2018-2019 made a growth of at least one level on PALS from fall to spring of that school year. And in last year's group of first graders, 78% made grew at least one level from fall to winter. I'm going to pass it back to Dr. Tolliver.
We are encouraged by the progress being made with attendance, school culture, and opportunities available for our students to broaden their experiences, discover and pursue their talents and interests, build life-ready skills, and dream big regarding their bright and promising futures. We also acknowledge that there is much more work to be done to increase growth, and improve academic outcomes for our students. The relationships and involvement from our families, first responders, community organizations, and area businesses have been strengthened by our partnership with An Achievable Dream. Our children benefit from this each and every day in tangible, direct ways, and by seeing that they are truly being loved by a village committed to their well-being, progress, and success. So in summary, our families and community are true partners and essential components of our students' success. We feel like their feedback is important to our work. This September, I asked our families how they felt their virtual learning experience was working for their children and how well we were serving their child as a whole. Approximately 100 families responded, and here are just 3 of the quotes shared with us. And I'll give you all a moment to read those. Mr. Thorpe?
Thank you, Dr. Tolliver. And that brings us to next steps and moving forward from here. And so next September, our first class of Dreamers will transition from 5th grade to 6th grade. We know that we have only a few months before students and families need to know the options that are available to them for 6th grade next year. We have learned and are recommending a standalone site for Achievable Dream that we believe will benefit our students academically, socially, and emotionally. And it is likely that the future site would require renovations in preparation to ensure that the environment is conducive for teaching and learning. Recognizing that fall 2021 is right around the corner, there is a need to have key staff members in place by March of 2020. These key staff members include principal, assistant principal, reading and math coaches, school counselors, a financial secretary, a principal secretary, registrar, librarian, library assistant, nurse, reset coordinator, and student enrichment coordinator. Implementing a secondary program would cost approximately $1.2 million. That concludes the update that we have for you today. Dr. Tolliver and I would be happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tolliver, Mrs. Thorpe. Since Achievable Dream is in the Verona District, Ms. Atkins, you want to start?
I am deeply troubled. I am troubled about the progress. And this chart reflects the percentage of students that are reading on or above their grade level. If I just picked one and said 5th grade, I'm not even looking at this presentation of 3% of 5th graders reading on or above grade level. What about the other 97%? Where are they? I respect the chart, and I'm appreciative of knowing that 3% is reading on or above. It's horrid, but I also want to know what's going on with the other 97%. In 2nd grade, we have 9% that can read on or above. What's going on with the other kids? That's the story. What's going on with the other kids is the story. There is a huge dynamic of dysfunction when we see numbers like this. These numbers tell a much, much bigger story. There is uniqueness at Highland Springs High School because you have the Achievable Dream Academy, you have Highland Springs Elementary School, and you have a community. Those 3 core areas, there is dysfunction. That's the best word that I can use sitting here in my first year and seeing since 2016 there's been a struggle. even with a program within a program, there's still a struggle. In kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade, and what is going on with the other students. Are they reading at all? Are they reading? How far below are they reading? What is the story? Because in order to fix it, you need the full story. I know that, Principal Tolliver, your heart is in the right place. I know we have staff that are working incredibly hard. Clearly, something's not working, and we got to fix it. And I'm grateful for all the sacrifices, but the biggest sacrifice of loss is with the percentage that we don't have on that slide. Our children deserve better. I'm going to talk to Highland Springs High School, elementary school families. I want to know everything that you want me to know about Highland Springs Elementary School. I want to know everything you want me to know about Achievable Dream Academy. Because we need help. We need a 4-letter word right now. This is a crisis when only 3% of a 5th grade class is reading as a 5th grader. This is a crisis. And that 4-letter word is the best word I can find for it: help. And it brings me to tears. Because the words are escaping me. They escaped me when I met with the individual sharing the presentation today. They were escaping me when I met with Dr. Cashwell. They were escaping me when I spoke with Ms. Reland, who is the Executive Director of Achievable Dream Academy. What is going on? And it's silence. And so I'm hopeful Highland Springs community, when we meet, and we will, next week on November 19th at 6:30 p.m. right here. If you're comfortable in person, please come. If you're not, there'll be an opportunity for you to participate virtually as well. Because we have to have some hard conversations to fix this. And it can't be fixed by one principal, one director, one superintendent, or one school board member. It's all of us. We need help. And so if you're interested in helping and being a part of this discussion that's going to happen next week, I hope you come. Chairman Cooper.
Yeah, Mr. Thorpe and
Yeah,
Dr. Tolliver, if you want to just respond, please.
Thank you very much. We wanted to be transparent about these outcomes, and Mrs. Atkins, we share your feelings about the outcomes that are represented on the screen. We did not want to interrupt you while you were speaking, but certainly we'd like to talk about what we feel this represents and doesn't represent. This represents lost opportunities that we can't get back. This represents trends and outcomes that are unacceptable and that must be reversed. This does not represent the love and the work of the leadership and the team and the faculty at Highland Springs Elementary School and the Achievable Dream Academy. Their heart and their soul is in it to win it for kids every day, long days every day for kids. This also doesn't represent the expectations that the community has for what they want their children to be and what they want them to achieve. We do have actions that we're ready to speak about. This continues to be, this is not news. We continue to be extremely disappointed about this, and we're going to continue. And here are a couple things. I'm going to start, and Dr. Tolliver is going to continue. Coaching is an essential next step, and while coaching is in place at Highland Springs Elementary School, it needs to be strengthened. We need to better support the coaches and those teachers who are working so hard. One of the areas in which we are going to be even more aggressive is strengthening lesson planning, making certain that there is alignment to the standard in both content and cognition in terms of level of rigor. More intentional opportunities for vocabulary development. Many of the slides that we saw right here, 4 out of the 5 of them were reading. This begins and ends with literacy, more intentional opportunities for vocabulary development, and authentic measures where we can see, have evidence of the progress of that vocabulary development. And we need to outline and communicate the behaviors that students are going to be demonstrating in the lessons that they're going to be exhibiting, and students need to know when they're going to be successful with those measures at the beginning of the lesson, in the middle of the lesson, and at the end of the lesson. This is just a start. Dr. Tolliver?
And so along with working with our coaches, they are also supporting some of our newer teachers that come to us. As I've shared before, we have quite a few teachers each year that are new to our community, and we do spend time getting them acclimated to our culture and acclimated to our students' needs. So our coaches have been working more targeted with those newer teachers to help support them so that they can make sure that they are teaching to the level of the content and the rigor of the content to help our students move forward. But we have, in the course of the past 4 years, we have welcomed, I would say, and about 90% of our staff have been new to us in the past 4 years. Not all at one time, but over the course of bringing in new staff each year. So our coaches are really working with those newer teachers to help make sure that they are comfortable and able to do what they need to do for our students.
And I appreciate that, because once we got, can we go to the slide that says next steps? You know, when you start at the beginning of the slide and then we look at attendance percentages and then we see these reading data points, my thoughts are, when you get to next steps, I was going to see what you said. My immediate next steps isn't how do we get these kids to 6th grade sight identification. My next steps are how the hell do we get them to read?
Yes, ma'am.
Next steps is right now. In the midst of COVID, we've lost. And it's not because of intentions, because your hearts are there. I know that. I feel accountable for what's lost here. Even though I wasn't here to help in this seat before, I'm still responsible. And so are you. And so even though our intentions are in the right place, we lost. The good news is that's a war. And we're in this for a battle. And we can do things right now. So as principal, and as this school board rep for this district, if you need to scream to the mountaintops that you need help,
Yes, ma'am.
do it. Because you're not by yourself. Part of this and moving forward is knowing in the way that you showed it here. Sometimes in isolation, you know, for me, I'm having one-on-ones maybe with a teacher, so there's that one-on-one, so I just know what my child is doing. But the truth is, I want to know how all the children are doing, because if I knew what I knew, I'd help in my own little way, not as a school board rep, but as a human being. Any human being watching this right now is concerned. And the next step is not sight identification, it's getting these kids to read. If you can't read, how you learn science? If you can't read your social studies assignment, how do you make progress there? And so while I respect these next steps, because I know conversations are needed, but that's not the priority. I just want you to know that. My priority is doing whatever I can to help you get these kids as a leader to read. And I don't know if that's the solution for other people, but I want you to know that is for me. Not as a school board rep, but as an adult and human being who loves children. I'd do the same if I found this information out for any of my colleagues in their district. If it was Brooklyn or anybody else and I saw these, I'm gonna say, Mrs. Kinsella, what can I do? Not as Alicia Atkins, the school board rep, when I found out only 3% of a 5th grade class can read. So I love you as a human, and I care about you and your school. But you gotta fight for these babies.
Yes, ma'am.
Not just here. And now that I know what I know, I'm going to bring soldiers with me to help fix this. But you gotta fight too.
Yes, ma'am.
And when I have this meeting with the Highland Springs community next week, the message is similar. Can't do this by yourself, but you also can't fix what you don't know collectively. So I appreciate both of you. I appreciate the teachers at Highland Springs Elementary because they're in this war. And we are going to get through it because there are no other choices. The choice isn't to move on. The choice is to fix it. So thank both of you.
Thank you,
Chairman
Ms.
Cooper.
Thank you, Ms. Atkins. I appreciate that. Ms. Shea.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Atkins, for your passion and your words. And I'm right there with you. If y'all need people to help do one-on-one reading, whether virtually or in person, I know Ms. Atkins will be there and I'll be there as well. Can we back up a little bit to the macro and help understand kind of some of the bigger structures of Achievable Dreams? So Ms. Atkins alluded to that it's not the whole school, it's a part of the school, correct?
At this point, it is the whole school. We are a K-5 program now, but it started at increments. So yes, we started initially with kindergarten through second grade.
Okay, so all of Highland Springs Elementary School is part of Achievable Dream.
Yes, ma'am, at
Okay.
this time.
And so, all right, that helped. All right. So any student zoned to Highland Springs is part of Achievable Dream.
There is an opportunity if a student does not want to be a part of Achievable Dream, there is an opt-out option for them at Fair Oaks Elementary. I would want to make that clear.
Okay.
That is correct.
Thank you. Okay. Let me regroup a little bit. All right. So when we look at some of this data, look at some of this data. I see you, Dr. Thorpe mentioned that the attrition rate is similar to other schools. I see the chronic absentee rate. Is it 10% or is it 10 days? Just for clarification.
It is 10%.
Okay, so that would have been adjusted accordingly for last year.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. But I don't see, do we know what the chronic absenteeism rate was previous to, have we seen a decrease from 2016 to now, I guess is my question, since implementing the program?
Please go ahead.
And so I would have to go back and pull those numbers, but we do have that data.
Okay, thank you. So when I fast forward here to SOLs, frankly, I care a lot more about reading on level than SOLs. Like, to me, that's what's most important. But even when I look at these SOL numbers, when I look diagonally through them in order to follow the same cohort, because I think that's what's more important, not how did third grade do last year and third grade do this year, it's how did that cohort of kids do as they progress through. I still see a decrease as that cohort, even in SOLs, moves from third, fourth, fifth grade across the board, as well as with their literacy, which is super concerning. How much do we invest in Achievable Dream each year? This might be a Dr. Cashwell or a Mr. Sorensen question.
I can give it a shot if it's
Go
okay.
ahead.
Thanks. Yeah. So between salary and benefits of employees that include Achievable Dream and Henrico County Public Schools, along with licensing, uniforms, and field trips, that's approximately $1.7 million every year. Mr. Sorensen, is that?
Do we know the licensing fee?
The licensing, uniforms, and field trips is $723,121 for this year. We can tease out just the licensing for you. We can get back with you on that.
Okay. When we look at the 3.1 million for expanding it to secondary,
I was,
right? Sorry.
I believe that was, implementing a secondary program would cost approximately $1.2 million.
And that would be the first year that cost would increase, because that's sixth grade next year.
That's
and
correct.
then moving
I wrote 1.3 and then read it backwards.
I'm sorry,
You know,
Mrs. Shea.
it's okay, it happened, my bad. All right, so that 1.2 million, you mentioned to have a standalone site that would require renovations. Are renovations included in that 1.2 million?
I believe that is.
Sir.
No, so we would have to
Yeah.
secure additional funding on top of the 1.2
Right,
million.
okay.
We've done some preliminary estimates at one of our sites, and I think the preliminary estimate is somewhere in the $2 to $3 million to become ready for the sixth graders to arrive.
So all in, looking at an investment around $4 million for next year, with renovation plus operating.
I think that's a fair estimate.
All right, back to a little bit of macro. Can you delineate for me a little bit, how is this different from, say, something like CLC that's at Glen Lee, et cetera, providing expanded programs?
I'm actually not familiar with CLC.
I think I can provide some context here, and I think Dr. Tigan was coming forward, but you're asking, I believe, about the Community Learning Center programming at Glen Lee. We also have it at Ratcliffe and Wilder, and in those cases, we leverage grant funding in partnership with the Henrico Education Foundation from the Virginia Department of Education for their 21st Century Learning grants. And so we're able to leverage that grant money through an application process to provide some extended day programming for students, as well as parent involvement, other enrichment opportunities. This also covers the costs of some summer programming. So it's basically similar in some ways to Achievable Dream in that you're looking at extending the learning day for students and providing those wraparound supports, but some differences in the way both of those programs are funded and leveraged. I may have missed some other key differences. I see someone coming forward.
The only other thing I would add is probably a similarity is both the Community Learning Center grant and Achievable Dream are both involved in not only academic success, but also in exposures, you know, as far as being able, students having opportunities for enrichment. It's not totally, neither one is focused all on remediation.
Thank you. What does providing the licensed program through Achievable Dream provide our students that we cannot as HCPS alone?
I'll start that answer, and Dr. Tolliver, extended day programs during the school days, as well as summer intersessions, and on Saturday school on select Saturdays in fall and spring of every year, as well as additional enrichment and extension opportunities through field trips. Dr. Tolliver?
And he did cover a lot of them. Additional resources in terms of their wealth of resources that they use with their other localities as well. Just having the expertise of some of their specialists, to be able to support our teachers. Additional professional development is one of the big ones that come to mind in terms of for our teachers. And actually also being able to support many of our families with additional resources, such as food for different occasions like for holidays, and even in times of need, in addition to what we do as a county as well.
And if I might, just to provide clarity, you asked for a specific figure related to licensing, and that is $500,000. Mr. Sorensen was able to tease out that specific fee, and would add in comparing both your question related to CLC programming versus Achievable Dream. While I don't think is a side-by-side comparison, the idea is that we certainly are monitoring as a school division achievement data and other related data points from our schools, and so that we know when they're in crisis. To your point, Mrs. Atkins, and I think think we have a number of schools, and certainly those for which we've applied for the CLC grants, where we see significant academic struggle related to reading on grade level and some of those other key metrics that is concerning to us as a school division. So we're going to do everything in our power as a school leadership team, working with the administrators and staff in our building to provide those supports. And so at times that's been leveraging grant funds like we've done through VDOE to provide those wraparound supports. And in the case of Highland Springs Elementary, I imagine that at the time the decision was made to bring Achievable Dream on board, it was made with similar intention, that we saw that there were some data points that were concerning, some trends that needed intervention beyond the traditional school programming that we offer. And thus, it's my understanding that's why the decision was made to leverage the Achievable Dream programming. And the licensing does come with a specific program that Achievable Dream licenses and uses related to a number of factors, but they do use our academic programming, our core HCPS curriculum. That's something to note. I hope that answered your question.
May I add one other thing that I don't know that we clearly said? Their same curriculum, I'm sorry, where we do the social emotional components with our social rotations, that is something that's also very uniquely from the Achievable Dream Academies.
Thank you. So I want to be clear that my questioning here about investing the money, I have no issue with investing resources into this community. When we see that, we have 3% of our fifth graders reading on level, there is a need to invest resources in this community. My issue is not with investing resources into this community. My issue is with funding resources through a private external entity that's not based in our community, which results, frankly, in less resources to the tune of at least $500,000 being invested in this community who needs them. And much like I alluded to in my AP comments, I so deeply believe in HCPS and our team and what we can offer students. I just hesitate on, especially if we're looking at expanding the program and need to find an extra $4 million to do that. I have concern with that when I know that we can meet the needs of our students with our staff and our programs. And so I think as we continue this conversation and look at what really happens next year, I believe in HCPS, and I believe that we know our students and we know our community needs much more than an external entity can. And that's all.
Thank you, Mrs. Shea. Ms. Ogburn.
Sorry. Having been to Newport News and Virginia Beach and seeing this program at the beginning and being part of the board that approved this to come, I have to be honest, and I feel for you right now, Dr. Oliver, I really do, standing there and listening to what is not real positive comments right now. And I know that what worries you more than that is the fact that it's not working. Because, I mean, having seen this grow, I know what's at the heart of it, and that's doing what's best for our kids, meeting their needs, helping them grow in other ways, not just academic. And so knowing that this is probably 10 times harder for you right now than it is for us. I mean, at least know that we know that. Because your heart and soul is in the right place. You want to do what's best for the kids. But what I would like to do, what I feel like is missing from our information right now, is the kids that choose to go to Highland Springs Elementary School, if they're in Achievable Dreams. If they don't go to Highland Springs Elementary School, they go to Fair Oaks, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How's Fair Oaks doing? Does Fair Oaks have more than 3% of their fifth grade reading on grade level? They're in the same community. They're just not doing Achievable Dreams. So I'd love to know a comparison, one school right next door to the other. And that would kind of tell us some information I think is sort of, as Ms. Atkins said, the rest of the story. So to me, what we need is a couple of comparisons. How's Achievable Dreams working in Henrico County at Highland Springs High School but how's it comparing to Fair Oaks? How is it comparing to what happens in Virginia Beach and Newport News, where this is implemented, where the licensing we're paying for? Is it working, or is there a difference in the way we're administering the program and handling the program that comes from Virginia Beach and Newport News? Are we doing something different? Because I'd like to see what their numbers are in K1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for their reading and their math. I mean, I have to be honest, I thought at this point, 4 years in, we would be having better results for the children, because that's what it's all about. I know the community has that expectation. We do, all of us, that we all work together to make sure this works. So if there's something we're not doing that is contributing to this, I think we need to drill down and find out what is the missing piece. What is the magic sauce that's not there in Henrico, but it is in Newport News and Virginia Beach? And so I think we need to find out, because that to me is important, because somewhere along the way, something's not working. We need to just not look at data points and numbers. We need to figure out what that is, because I really can't see continuing this on the way it is without making some substantial changes. Because, I mean, it's not just for the sixth graders, it's for the kindergartners, the first graders that are there now, and the ones that are coming on. We can't just continue this without making changes. But it seems to me that, we need that comparison. We need to evaluate our own program, the way we're implementing it, in order to get to the cause. Because I can guarantee you that if every one of us had a school in their district that had the numbers that we're having, I want to quote Lisa Marshall. What would she say? She said her hair would be on fire. I mean, and Lisa used to say that all the time, and it's so true in this instance. We'd all be feeling this way, and I know that you can't continue to, the thing is you can't, just throwing money at this is not going to solve the problem. There is something somewhere where we're not doing something that other schools are doing in Virginia Beach and Newport News, because they're so successful in their program. So I'd like to know that. I'd like to, obviously, I think we need to get some feedback from teachers on staff. If there's something there we can look at, it's not all training. But I heard you say something, and I want to be sure I heard you correctly. You said you were pleased about the improvement in the attendance and absenteeism. I think I heard you say that.
In terms of rights, for this year, we have 95% of our students.
But if we could go back to the attendance, I thought I heard you say. So you were pleased with your improvement in Saturday school and that attendance?
And for this school year, we have 95% average attendance daily, with us being virtual.
Because it's virtual. To me, that there is something key here, and that is that transportation piece, getting kids to show up to school every day. Do we have an issue there? That to me is one place to start. If you've got 95% of your kids tuning in every day, they're online, they're virtual, but if we go back one, you've got not that happening when the kids come to school. So to me, right there is a place to start. There's got to be a reason why the kids are showing up virtual, but they're not when it's in person. And to me, I'm like, that is so glaring, because kids can't learn if they're not in school, if they're not plugged in, whatever, but they are coming virtually, which, I think that's awesome. So maybe there's something we need to explore there, but I think we do need to do some comparisons of this program to others, to our other elementary schools. But we need to look at what we're getting out of this for the kids. If we can serve the kids better in a different way, I think we should. We owe it to them. And we owe it to, all of y'all are working so hard, and I just feel like over the last 4 years, that has been the case from the beginning. I mean, so much effort has gone into this. This is not what you want. I know it's not what the parents want. So we need to help you figure out how to change it. But continuing on with the same thing, I just don't think we can, any of us, live with. So if whatever, like Ms. Atkins said, whatever you need to, I really do hope you will be sitting down with our staff and saying, okay, this is what I see every single day. This is where it's broken. This is what we need to do to fix it. If you have the answers, and the problem is you may not have them. But that's where the real work is going to be, I think, moving forward. But thank you. I mean, I know it's hard for you.
We're just trying to maintain this. The consistent staff has been the struggle, and it was the struggle before the academy, being able to maintain staff that will stay in my building, that will help build relationships with my students, because that is a lot of it also. If they don't have a relationship with their teacher, they don't work as hard for that teacher. And the teachers that are there and have been there over the years, you can see the difference.
Sure,
And so
absolutely.
the staffing is a huge
Absolutely.
challenge.
But thank you.
Ms. Ogburn, I want to say that we will get that data to you. That comparison data is very important, and you're right on the mark that things like attendance and engagement are absolutely necessary prerequisites to student
Absolutely.
achievement, student growth, student development. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you, I appreciate it. If we could have that, we don't need to wait till our board meeting in December. As soon as you can get that to us, I think it would be crucial for us to have continuing conversations and support these kids in the way they need to be supported.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we will,
Thank you.
we'll provide that data right away. And I just want to underscore once more that, when it comes to the achievement data for all of our schools, when we're seeing significant concerns around literacy like we're seeing here, there are action plans developed, and our team is working very closely with Mrs. Tolliver to make sure she has the support she needs, and we're monitoring that. But certainly all points well taken, and particularly when it comes to looking at all aspects of the programming.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ogburn. Mrs. Kinsella.
Yes, again, thank you for all the work you're doing at Achievable Dream. Thank you for the presentation. Those numbers, I mean, the elementary school foundation is just it's critical to these students. And I can't even contemplate expanding a program, because I want to take some of that money and put it toward the remediation to catch those children. I mean, as a mother of children who struggle to read, reading is everything. Reading is math. If you can't read, you can't do your math. I mean, I'm just really, I share, we will help you. I can't see, like Mrs. Shea said, the investment. I want to invest in these communities where these students are that are struggling. I just don't know if Achievable Dream is the investment we need to continue to make, because I believe in Henrico County Public Schools too. As a product of Henrico County Public Schools, I believe in what we can do. And I want to see the data Ms. Ogburn has asked for. I believe that will be telling. And put us on a path as to how we can potentially help the students now. But we definitely, it's budget time. I think we need some remediation funds or some grants. I don't know what we need to do, but we definitely need to fund helping these students. Thank you.
Again, so thank you so much. And Dr. Oliver, I guess, I think the passion and the energy that my peers have exhibited is directly correlated to the data that pertains to academics. One thing I feel is not presented, which probably would give us a more, rounded picture, is, Dr. Oliver, you mentioned something about mindfulness, practicing mindfulness. And I guess the question to raise is, tell me some more about that, because the question I want to ask you is, does the Achievable Dream, as far as our population there, have a large number of students with a trauma background that requires more support and intervention that we don't necessarily understand or hasn't been communicated to us because, that this is not the full picture. This is data trending, absenteeism and on that level, but the academics are trending down. And then I just need to know that. I mean, personally, is that a part of this problem or a part of the equation, may I say, that hasn't been communicated to us?
Right. So yes, a significant number of my population, of my students, have a trauma background. They've experienced some sort of trauma. Our community was noted on, I want to say it was about 3 or 4 years ago, of having the most missing fathers and men in the community. Mm-hmm. So these resources and this program helps support by bringing in our community partners, Henrico Police, Fire, and Sheriffs, and they see these people in a different role. And we do, with the mindfulness, we're helping. I'm seeing kids problem solve very differently. I'm seeing children able to manage their emotions and the traumas that they've had in a different way. And I feel like I know it's directly related to the work we do with them as part of our social rotations. I'm hearing the positive self-talk. I know my students are growing. I see them growing. They're getting closer. Some of these babies that were represented have made a year and a half's worth of growth in their reading because they were lower, and they've made gains, but they still have a long way to go. So that's the hard part in looking at numbers like this. It doesn't show you how far a child has gone if they were already behind. And our kids have been making growth. The piece that shows the percentage of children that have made a level, that PALS data shows that piece too, where they are growing. We just have a lot further to get our babies.
No, and I agree, and that's why I wanted you to identify and kind of expand that and expound on it, because it's so easy to get lost in translation if we just totally deduce something to a number. Right. But there's definitely a root cause to anything that we see, and so I just think, but in that same vein, the challenge becomes, and when we talk about resource allocations, oftentimes deficiency occurs because of lack of funding, right? Lack of resources available. This is a fully funded, financially, yes, program. And so when you talk about the outcomes that are being produced based upon the financial investment, that's what's causing trepidation. But we do know that there's some other factors involved that are, producing these numbers. Per your point, I tell people all the time, if I'm going to Philadelphia, and you get to start in DC, I start in Richmond, you're gonna get there first, no matter what the speed variation is, because you had a 100-mile head start. And so when you come from a certain social economic background, when you come from a certain family structure, there are certain things. If you go to bed at night and you don't have to see somebody get beat, or you go to bed at night and you don't have to worry about eating, it's a different story than somebody who goes to bed crying every night. Right. And so I get it. I mean, I live it every day in my church, my community, so that's not the issue. I just want to acknowledge that, and I want to say, listen, we're in this together, as my colleague said, and it's about the path forward, right? It's about what can we do to help our children, help the staff to achieve the results that they need and we need. So I look forward to these discussions, but I mean, it's so much more. It's so much more, and so thank you for your time, and thank you for this, and again, I want to thank Ms. Ogburn for just pausing for a moment to show the empathy that we do have. We are empathetic, and we are appreciative of your work, your staff work. I've been there. I've read to your students. I've been in the receiving line. I know how hard y'all work. So that's not lost on me, and it's not lost on us. So I just want to kind of echo what she said. So thank you so much, Mrs. Thorpe, Dr. Oliver, Dr. Cashwell. Thank you.
Yeah, I echo thanks for the presentation, and certainly to all of the board members who, to each and every one of you, you've brought up excellent points and you've asked some hard questions of us, and we are prepared to come back with the answers, not only to bring you more specific data to meet the needs that you have as you're considering whether, particularly the financial aspect here, and I think that was clear to each board member's comments. We want to make sure we're bringing you information related to all aspects of the data as you weigh the financial implications as we are preparing our next budget season and what might make sense moving forward with next steps. So, and again, want to assure you that in regards to that reading data, that is something we are laser focused on, committed to right here, right now, today, and have been, and will continue to work on addressing that, no matter even in the virtual environment with our students we find ourselves in today. So thank you all, and we look forward to bringing more information to the board.
Thank you.